Is Beyoncé bigger than Michael Jackson? Let's talk about it. By the way, I'm KJ Miller. I love talking about all things pop culture, business, and beauty. If you like any of that, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into it. I will admit right off the bat, the way I opened was a little rage baity. I am not here to debate if Beyonce is bigger than Michael Jackson. I personally don't find that debate to be all that interesting. I don't think one is bigger than the other. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they both are legends in their own right. Beyonce is already a legend, though she is not a legacy act, which we will talk about. They are both icons. They are both the moment, even though Michael has passed, God bless his soul. I just don't find that debate to be all that interesting. However, I do currently have a video going viral on TikTok in which I talk about Beyonce versus Michael Jackson in one key respect, okay? Because another creator, Jamal Berkmar, am I saying his name right? Hold on. Yes, Jamal Berkmar. I made the video because he made a video. This is really all his fault. Okay, so if y'all are mad, go be mad at him. But he made a video in which he did argue that Beyonce is definitively bigger than Michael Jackson. And what I said was, that is not necessarily a conclusion I would draw. However, he did say something that I thought was very interesting and is going to be kind of the subject of this video here, which is at Beyonce's age, she is 43 years old. At her age, most artists are considered legacy artists. They are not skating by on their legacy. They built something amazing, but that is what people are coming to see them perform. Their legacy acts, their hits from years prior. That is true of the people we could reasonably call Beyonce's peers. That's true of Justin Timberlake. That's true of, Christina Aguilera. That's certainly true of J-Lo, who had to cancel a tour because nobody wanted to hear the new album. That's true of Backstreet Boys, who are doing a greatest hits tour in the sphere right now. That is true of the people who were popular while she was performing with Destiny's Child. All those people who were on TRL with her, the ones who are still performing, they're performing greatest hits, and that is what people are going to see them perform. She, however, just sold out a tour on the strength of her most recent album, an album she dropped when she was 41, 42 years old. That is just not how it usually happens, right? So that was one of the points he made in his video. And to me, it was a very, very compelling point, because if we look at Michael Jackson, by the time he was 43, he was, in most people's eyes, a legacy artist. Yes, he dropped another album. He dropped Invincible, an album I enjoyed. But that is not what people thought of when they thought of Michael Jackson. What they thought of were his hits from the 80s and 90s. It was Thriller. It was Bad. It was Beat It. It was the song from Free Willy, Hold Me, which is still a bop, okay? But the point is, he really, by that point, was a legacy artist. Beyonce is not. She is still a contemporary artist. She is still doing things that the 20-year-old girls are not doing, cannot do. She's selling out stadiums in a way that the 25-year-olds cannot do, are not doing. She's performing harder and performing her current hits, okay? So I just was making that point in the video. It is going, baby viral right now. It's got something like 95,000 views. Now it's feeling to me like one of those that's going to get up into the multiple hundreds of thousands. I get a feeling for these things. If you get up to 90K, you're usually going to get up to 200. And if you get up to 200, you're usually going to get up to 500. Okay. So we'll see. But the point is, most of the people in the comments are agreeing, but now we're starting to reach the tipping point where it's reaching all the MJ fans who are cursing me out. When I didn't even say Beyonce is bigger than Michael. In fact, I'm pretty sure I said in the video, I'm not drawing that same conclusion that Jamal drew. Okay, so you go take that smoke to Jamal. I'm simply saying, in this one regard, yes, she has surpassed Michael, in that she is still putting out music that people are checking for and buying tickets to go see in concert. The Cowboy Carter tour was 80% Cowboy Carter. And we were all gagged because one of the songs from her discography that she did sing, which is Irreplaceable, she hasn't sung in damn near 15 years. It was one of her biggest hits of all time, one of her biggest number ones of all time. She stopped singing it. She just stopped singing it. What other artists do you know right now who would go on tour and not sing their biggest hit? You think Taylor Swift would go out on tour and not sing Shake It Off? I don't. And that's not tea, that's not shade. I just think it's fact. Most artists would not do that. They know you want to hear the big hits. Beyonce's like, no, you came to hear me sing Cowboy Carter, and that's what you're going to hear. Thank you, good night. And I think that is amazing, okay? And I think that puts her in a league, maybe not entirely by herself, but in a very, 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 very short list of people. So part of what I want to do in this video is ask the question, who else is on that list? Because there have been people in my comments saying a few names, not that many names, is not a long list, but there have been people saying a few names. I want to dig into those. And then if there's time, because I am on a time crunch, I have multiple jobs. If there's time, I want to dig into how I think Beyonce has gotten to a place where she is still so contemporary, even at her big age of 43. Okay, but let's start with the short list. The names that have come up in my comments are Madonna, Prince, Whitney Houston. Anybody else? Who else have people said? Okay, I just took a quick scroll through my comments. Those are really the three that have come up. It is Madonna, Prince, and Whitney Houston. I'm sure there will be people who watch this video and be like, oh, you forgot about so-and-so, but I only got but so much time. So let's dig into those three, starting with Madonna. And I will just say, I'm not a Madonna fan. Okay. Does she have a few songs that I enjoy? Sure. I'm not a Madonna fan. So I'm not going to have tons of facts and figures to spout off the top of my head, but that's what my good friend Google here is for. So right off the bat, let me just say, the metric I'm using to have this conversation is, are you still releasing, or were you still releasing relevant chart-topping music and going on tours focused on your most current music past the age of 40? That's the conversation we're having, okay? We're not having conversations about how much bigger is Madonna than Beyonce, or how much better is Whitney vocally than Madonna. I'm not having all those side conversations. Right now, I'm focusing on one metric, the same metric I focused on in my TikTok video, which is, in your 40s, are people still looking for your new music? Are they still checking for it? Are they still sending it up the charts? Are they still going to your tour to watch you sing those songs? Okay. So let's start with Madonna. Now, she was still releasing hit music into her 40s and 50s. I'm looking at a chart of her chart positions. It's on a site called madeyes.net. I fact check a few of these numbers. They look right to me, okay? So now I'm looking at some of her most recent releases and where they charted on the Billboard Hot 100. Okay, now she had a song in 2012 called Give Me All Your Lovin'. It peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Madonna was born in 1958, y'all. So in 2012, she would have been 54 years old. Okay, and had a top 10 hit at 54. Then if we keep scrolling 4 minutes, now that is a song I do know. I don't know this Give Me All Your Lovin' song, but I do remember You Only Got 4 Minutes to Save the World with Justin Timberlake. That peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. That was in 2008. So she would have been 50 years old at the time. And that is incredibly impressive. She had a song in 2005, Hung Up, that peaked at number 7. I don't know that song, but that is impressive. I'm looking to see when her last number 1 hit was. Her last number 1 hit was in 2000, Music Makes the People. I do know that song, and she would have been, let's see, when did I say she was born? 1958. Yeah, so she would have been 42. Okay, so boom. So I think the people referencing Madonna as a peer to Beyonce, in as far as she was still releasing chart-topping music well into her 40s and 50s, y'all are right about that. I'll give you Madonna. I am not someone who regularly listens to her music. That takes nothing away from her legacy and what she has done and what she has built. So yes, I think the people bringing up Madonna as it relates to this conversation, still releasing relevant music well into your 40s and 50s, check one for you, okay? +1 for you. I will say, I don't think anyone thinks that Madonna's performances are on par with Beyonce's performances vocally, choreography wise either. I don't, maybe you do. I don't think she's serving as hard as Beyonce when it comes to her performances, but is she still putting out relevant music in her 40s and 50s? Yes. Yes. According to the charts. Okay. According to me, in my taste, I might disagree, but I did like some of those. Music makes the beat boom. So I'm taking nothing from her. Okay, fine. So we can put Madonna in that conversation. Let's turn to Whitney Houston. Now, let me just say right off the bat, when it comes to Whitney, Whitney exists in a whole different time, plane, and space to me from just about any other artist, because she truly was the voice of a generation, the voice of a millennium, the voice of the planet. I don't know how else to put it. When Whitney sang, I still, when I put on that Bodyguard soundtrack, to this day, chills. It just sends me into the ether. She is one of one in a lot of ways. The same way Beyonce is one of one, to me, Whitney is one of one. So regardless of what these little charts are about to tell me, and I don't know exactly what they're about to tell me, regardless of what they're about to tell me, Whitney, put some respect on her name, okay? Whitney Houston was born in 1963, only 5 years after Madonna. Huh. Would you look at that? I don't think I thought that. Okay. All right. So that's when she was born. So now let's take a look at her singles. Now I'm on a site called musicchartsarchive.com, and I assume it's reputable. And just as a reminder, Whitney Houston did pass in 2012. So looking at the charts, what I see here is 2 songs from her album, My Love Is Your Love, made it to the top 10. Okay. So what I'm looking at here, according to this chart, My Love Is Your Love and It's Not Right, But It's Okay, both peaked at number 4 in 1999. Is that when that album came out? Now, hold on. My Love Is Your Love came out in 1998. Oh my God. That chart is right. Okay. So now let's see, how old was she in 1999 when those songs went to number 1? She was born in 1963. So in 1999, she would have been only 36 years old. Am I doing that math right? She was only 36 years old, y'all. She was the age Taylor Swift is today. How old is Taylor Swift? 35? They don't let Black women be young. They don't let us be young. They don't let us be young. I would have sworn to you that Whitney Houston was in her 40s when My Love Is Your Love came out. My God, my God, my God. Okay. And that, according to what I'm seeing here, was the last time she was in the top 10 with new music, because she had some re-releases go to the top 10 posthumously. I know I'm saying that incorrectly. After her death, she did have some re-releases get into the top 10. Now, what I will say is her album made it to number 1, I Look to You, in 2009. And so that is saying something. But I think, if we're being honest, I don't think that's because people were necessarily looking to Whitney as a contemporary artist. I think it's because we love Whitney. She is one of one. And there was a rush to get that album. And also by that point, we all were very aware of her struggles with drugs, personal struggles with Bobby. So do I think there was also a little bit of tabloid fodder running up, the album streams and downloads and purchases? Yes, I do. I hate to say that. Obviously, she's incredibly talented, but do I think that's a little bit of what was going on? Yes. I do not think people were looking at I Look to You the way people are looking at Cowboy Carter from Beyonce, right? I remember this because I remember when I Look to You came out, and I remember, hoping we were going to get old Whitney. And the album had a vibe of old Whitney, but her voice by that point wasn't the same. It simply was not. She didn't have the same instrument that she had had in years prior. And so it pains me to say it. I don't think Whitney can be a part of this conversation. I don't think we can say Whitney was still making music in her 40s up until the time of her untimely death, because she died in 2012. She would have turned 50 in 2013. I do not think we can say that in her 40s, she was still thought of as a contemporary artist, making music that we thought about contemporarily. I think by that point, we had all transitioned into thinking about Whitney as a legacy artist. We were still thinking about her heydays, the Bodyguard soundtrack, the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, saving all my love for you. That's what we were thinking about and loving her for and wanting more of from her and wishing she could deliver on that. But of course, her personal struggles kept her from being able to deliver in the same way. Obviously, Whitney is beloved. As I started by saying, she is one of one in many ways because her voice was just that damn powerful and amazing. But in a conversation about continuing to innovate in music and be looked at as an innovator in music into your 40s, I don't think Whitney belongs in that conversation. Now let's turn to Prince. Prince was born the same year as Madonna, y'all, 1958. I'm telling you, these dates are taking me out. I didn't think that. Okay, fine. That's when he was born. Let's look at his charts. Okay, well, first of all, we have to talk about the fact that apparently this man was putting out an album every year for like 20 years. That's wild. Okay, but let's get to these singles. The most recent top 10 hit I am seeing from Prince is 1994, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Before that was 1992, his song 7 peaked at number 7. Fitting. And his last number 1 hit was a song called Cream in 1991. Okay, so his last top 10 hit, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, that was in 1994. He would have been 36. Yes, correct. And according to these charts and figures I'm looking at, he did not have any additional top 10 hits after that point up until his death, other than a couple of re-releases, so those don't count. In terms of albums and their peak, he had a lot of albums in the top 10, including an album called Ultimate in 2016. Here's my question. Is Ultimate a greatest hits album? Because we're not counting those. Yes, Ultimate was a greatest hits album, so we're not going to count that. He also had the very best of Prince go number 1 in 2016. We're not counting that. It looks like in 2009, he had an album go to number 2 called Lotus Flower, and an album go number 1 in 2006. 3121. So in 2006, he would have been 48 years old. So yes, albums still getting their due well into his 40s. It certainly looks that way. Do I think by that point, people had mostly transitioned into thinking of him as a legacy artist? Yes. I do. I can't say it quite as confidently for Prince as I can with Whitney, because I was not a part of the Prince fandom. I'm very much peripheral with Prince. I recognize his genius and his contributions to music, but I was never someone listening to Prince. So he might be on the fence here. I definitely know everybody still looked at Prince as Prince, literally up until the day he died. Like, Prince was Prince. You definitely respected that man. You definitely respected his musical genius. So whether or not you were checking for the new singles he was putting out, I mean, given that none of them were in the top 10, I don't think the collective we, America, was. But I don't know that I can quite as definitively say we should back him out of the conversation as I feel like I can say about Whitney. So, okay, Madonna, yes. Prince, maybe. That's where we stand, folks. That's where we stand. That's the short list that Beyonce is a part of in terms of artists who are still considered contemporary well into their 40s. And with the little bit of time I have left, I will say the reason why I personally think Beyonce has achieved this, continues to achieve this, is because she has done what a lot of pop stars are scared to do. She has focused on going deep in her craft, deep in her talent, and deep with her musical inclinations rather than going broad. She let go of the idea of making hits so long ago. I would argue basically after I Am Sasha Fierce, she decided she did not care about that. She decided she cared about music first. Is the music interesting to me? Am I putting the right people in the room to create sounds that are compelling to me? She decided to go deep in that versus how can I write another hit that's going to reach the most number of people, be played at the most number of parties, that the most number of DJs are going to loop into a set. That's broad. And I think so much of pop music concerns itself with broad, and that makes sense. Pop stands for popular. I think Beyonce made the decision years and years ago to go deep. And I think that is why she has been able to maintain the level of innovation that keeps you considered contemporary. I really do think that's why. I think when your focus is too much on broad, you don't innovate. And when you're not innovating, people stop looking to you as a sign of newness. They're like, maybe this pop star over here, like a Benson Boone, do I think anything he's putting out is particularly innovative? No, but he's new, he's shiny, and he's doing backflips. So that's who I'm going to consider contemporary, right? Because he is, in fact, new and contemporary. If you, as an artist who's been around for years and years, decades and decades, want to be considered contemporary, you have to be innovating. And I think a lot of artists are scared to do it. And Beyonce decided, I'm not scared. And thank God for that, because she's putting out, right now, the best music anybody is putting out. On God. That's how I feel. Anyway, curious to know what you think. If you like this sort of content, be sure to subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.